on Sportsnet with the Dodgers leading the series. 1-0 as we welcome you to the Home Hardware Studio. Home Hardware, the official home improvement retailer of the Toronto Blue Jays. Locally owned, genuinely Canadian. Once again, with Blake Murphy, I'm Brad Fay. For those that have not remembered or memorized the American phone book, 862 is the area code for New Jersey, but it's also the official score in Wisconsin of one of the wildest plays you will ever see, playoff game or not.
Grand Slam would have been really cool. The Dodgers would have taken it surely as a different way to win that game, but instead an 8-6-2 ground into double play. Technically, Sal Frelick bobbles this ball. We thought it was a Max Muncy Grand Slam, but because it goes off his glove and then off the wall, that's live. Teoscar Hernandez at third base doesn't quite realize Sal Frelick and Joey Ortiz do. They get the runner at home, and then a very heads-up play by William Contreras to just strut on down to third base, beat Will Smith there. One of the weirdest, most unconventional double plays you'll ever see. Was not quite sure how to score to my book. 8-6-2 unassisted on the second out. It doesn't get weirder than that, Brad.
It doesn't. You do not see it very often, and the folks in Milwaukee got to witness it, but they witnessed the loss, and the best team in baseball now trying to get on even terms. A look at the pitching matchup for tonight. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has worked twice in these playoffs. In his last outing in the DS, he allowed 3 earned runs on 6 hits in 4 innings in an 8-2 loss to the Phillies. The Brewers turn to their ace, Freddie Peralta, who worked twice in the NLDS as well against the Cubs with mixed results. These two faced off back in July with Peralta's Brewers coming away 9-1 winners. So the Brewers got to Yamamoto the one time that they saw him. Is there cause for concern, Blake, in that regard? Hang on, let's hear from the pitchers first.
前回はかなりうまくいかなかったですけど
Last time I was here, it didn't. Outcome wasn't not like I was expected. And then obviously the lineup, it's a great lineup. They can hit home run, string in hits. So I'd like to get myself ready the best possible.
What were you able to sort of take from that start against the Phillies? And is there anything that execution-wise you feel like you could do better?
Last outing, my stuff was not necessarily that bad because I allowed weak contact. So I think I'd like to focus on a fundamental part of the pitching, such as like a location and those things.
Yeah, it's a new challenge, but at the end of the day, for me, I just take it like another game because for me, what it works is just keep the game simple and go outside and compete. Each hitter, each pitch that I throw is what makes me feel like more comfortable with myself. Because if I don't want to try to keep doing more than normal, and then I try to keep the game simple.
Perhaps we can say small sample size, but an opportunity perhaps for the Brewers tonight?
It was Yamamoto's worst start of the season when he saw them back in July, but I'm not going to be too confident against anyone that has a 2.49 ERA and is probably going to finish in the top 5 on a lot of Cy Young ballots. If you're looking at what the Brewers will try to do to Yamamoto, it's a 5-pitch mix, but it's mostly a 3-pitch mix, and they're all nasty. The splitter is the headline item. It's a true split finger fastball, not sort of the slower split change that we often see guys throw. It's one of the hardest splitters in the league. He will complement that with a curveball that has one of the biggest drops relative to where he releases it from, and a fastball that he does a good job keeping low in the zone. So when you think of a mix like that and 3 pitches kind of tunneling low in the zone, what do you want to do against it? Well, the Milwaukee Brewers were one of the best contact teams in all of baseball. They were one of the best teams as far as batting average goes in all of baseball. Actually fairly similar to the Blue Jays from that standpoint offensively. So if you're Yamamoto and you want to locate down on the zone, the Brewers are a team that is at least willing to chip away and try to add some singles together. He did give up the home run to Andrew Vaughn in that game, 3 earned runs and 5 runs overall because there was an error behind him. This is a Brewers team that's not going to be as willing to chase outside of the zone as some other teams Yamamoto has seen. Still going to take my chances with the guy with the 2.49 ERA again. But yeah, the Brewers come in here with a couple of their guys at least confident with a small sample success.
It is the small market Brewers against the team with the biggest payroll in baseball. All right, so much to talk about on the off day. The Jays' 2 best starters couldn't get it done. The bullpen very taxed in game 1 and 2, and now 2 veterans. How deep do Bieber and Scherzer need to go in game 3 and 4?
Shane Bieber definitely needs to go deep. We'll see how stretched out Max Scherzer is and how effective he can be. He was doing 5-inning simulated games. but it's imperative for Shane Bieber to give them some length, because this is a bullpen that has been pretty heavily taxed because of the quick hook for Bieber and Yasavage, and to a lesser extent Kevin Gausman. It's pretty interesting that despite not being in the wild card series, the Blue Jays have had more reliever appearances than any other team. They've also surrendered more home runs. They have one of the worst ERAs among any bullpen team in the postseason. So that bullpen day really does stand out as an outlier. Obviously, it was tremendous. It helped eliminate the Yankees, but that has not been the standard for this bullpen. And using the bullpen so much in the first two games of this series is concerning, not necessarily from a fatigue perspective, because there have been so many off days with the bye and finishing the Yankees in 4, but there is a real data effect that we see when an opposing team gets to see a reliever 2, 3, even 4 times over the course of a 5 or 7 game series. We hear all the time about the third time through the order effect for starting pitchers. Well, that's a real thing for relievers when they see not just the same hitters, but even the same lineup multiple times over the course of the series. So if you look at where the bullpens are right now, coming into this series, you thought it would be a pretty big advantage for the Toronto Blue Jays on the Seattle Mariners, because the Mariners had to go 5 games. They had to go 15 innings in that Game 5. Instead, the Mariners will head into Game 3 tomorrow with no reliever having pitched more than twice in the last 6 days. They've entirely flipped that advantage to where the Jays really need to get 5, hopefully 6 out of Shane Bieber.
And the Jays, it feels like must win in the eyes of the fans, to be sure. I think they were talking about that before Game 2. So where does it go for Game 3? First of all, given the market, the team, and what's happened with the Brewers, the way they play, Pat Murphy is straight out of Central Casting, as a matter. Perfect guy to be managing the Brewers. Do they have the perfect guy on the hill tonight in Freddie Peralta, who was 9-1 at home this season?
They better hope so. And I know Mike Petriello laid out the case that Shohei might have his number. They've got to hope that he's the only guy. Mike also mentioned the low zone rate for Freddie Peralta. If the Dodgers are super patient and get that pitch count up, the Brewers could be in trouble as this series continues on. Now, Freddie Peralta is very good. He had a 2.70 ERA this year. He threw 176 innings, which by the standards of the 2025 Brewers may as well be 300 innings. They just don't let their starters go long, but that's why it's pretty imperative for him to give them some depth here. They have used their bullpen a ton. They're basically operating with just him as a starter, and everything else is an opener and then a bulk reliever and then go into the bullpen. We talked a little earlier about the toll that has taken on the Blue Jays. That'll take a toll on the Brewers as well. It's a tough way to go if Jacob Mizorowski is going to have to pitch 4 innings every 2 games, as electric as it is.
We talked earlier about the craziest double play. You'll see the 8-6-2. There was a wild finish to this one, too. Bases loaded, down 1 in the bottom of the 9th, and then Bryce Terang says he has to own it. Explain what happened.
Yeah, Bryce Terang gets a pitch that probably would have hit him if he stayed in there. I'm not going to say with pitchers throwing 100 miles an hour now that you have to wear that. I'm sure he would like it back, though, because that would have scored the tying run. On the next pitch, he swung at a terrible pitch way out of the zone. It was the second highest pitch in this postseason that's been swung at for a strike. If you're looking for a silver lining as the Brewers here, you definitely want to have that game. But the fact that once Snell got out of that game, you were able to make Roki Sasaki look human for the first time since he's gone to this kind of fireman role in the bullpen. Blake Trinan continues to struggle. The Dodgers with a 5.91 postseason ERA. So if you can get Yamamoto out of here early, maybe you like what the Brewers were able to show there.
Yeah, and Terang said, listen, it's a natural reaction. I think we can all relate to that. As you say, 100 miles an hour coming at you, you're going to move out of the way instinctively. Might have cost the Brewers an opportunity to win Game 1. So they face the similar scenario to the Blue Jays, heading for Game 2 at home, trying to get a split and head to Chavez Ravine. The first pitch from American Family Field in Milwaukee is next on Sportsnet. Home Hardware is proud to be the official home improvement retailer of the Toronto Blue Jays, locally owned, genuinely Canadian. Blake Murphy, this feels very familiar to the crowd at Rogers Center, going through the same thing with the Dodgers dominating. So we'd have some fun with the play tonight that's marked under the file. What are the chances?
Yeah, what are the chances? We talked about the bizarro 8-6-2 double play from last night's game. Max Muncy hits the heck out of one, but Sal Frelick is able to get a glove on it. And it turns into one of the most rare double plays you can have in baseball. Again, an 8-6-2. Well, what does Max Muncy do tonight? He goes back to that same spot, goes back to that same fielder, and hits it just 8 feet further. And this one clears the wall to give the Dodgers an extra run in that 6th inning. And Freddie Peralta was back in there. We talked before the game about how much length the Brewers would need out of him. I'm okay with him still being in there. That's your ace. You have a thinned out bullpen. It didn't work out there. The bigger problem is Yamamoto's dealing.
Absolutely. Would have been a grand slam last night for Muncy, but he takes that shot to put the Dodgers in control tonight.
So I heard a rumor. You write apology letters to goalies when they retire?
Dear the Dodgers win 5-1 the final. They take a 2-zip series lead with more Brad Fay and Blake Murphy.
First complete game in postseason for the Dodgers in 21 years. First by anybody since 2017 when Justin Verlander did it. But, Blake, that doesn't even begin to tell the story of the pitching prowess of the Dodgers.
The 21-year stat would be something if it was a team that wasn't in the playoffs all that often. But the Dodgers are in the postseason for the 13th year in a row. So that is something special that Yamamoto just accomplished. Something very special that Snell and Yamamoto just accomplished together. That is 17 innings of one-run ball from their two starters over the first 2 games of this series. And that pushes the Dodgers' starting rotation ERA in the entire postseason right now to 1.54. That would be the second best in league history. The 1983 Baltimore Orioles, the only team with a better rotation ERA over at least 8 postseason games. So this has put the Brewers on their heels a little bit in the exact same way that the Blue Jays find themselves, where the Brewers came in as the home team, as the top seed, and they have lost both of the first 2 games. Now, historically, teams are 3-24 when they lose the first 2 at home in a 2-3-2 format. That doesn't sound particularly good. A little quick math, there's about a 1 in 5 chance of one of these teams pulling it off, given those odds. But if you are the Brewers and you just got shut down like that by Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and you look, and it's Shohei Ohtani and Tyler Glasnow coming up in games 3 and 4 in some order. I know the Jays have George Kirby and Luis Castillo. That's not fun either. But Ohtani and Glasnow, it's got to feel tough for the Brewers right now, Brad.
The Dodgers 4-0 on the road in this postseason, might not have to play another postseason road game until the World Series. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays try to get back in their series. They get first crack at what the Brewers are going to try to do as well. Go on the road and win 2 of 3. Seattle is the site, and 7 o'clock Eastern. We are on the air.